Boardroom Advisors. Oh, now we're being recorded. Okay, so I'm Courtney, a founder and CEO of Boardroom Advisors. So welcome to this session, which is about building boards and advisors. So you can kind of guess from the company name that this is kind of what we do. So we provide part-time board level people to startups and scale-ups. Right. So what we're going to cover today, why you need to build your board and advisor team. So what that means in terms of raising funds, and also at operational level, and different requirements of chairs, non-executive directors and board advisors. What are they? How's the difference? What are their various roles? And some key areas that people, that board level people get involved with, particularly around strategy and growth. How to choose the right people, which is really difficult, and how to reward board members and advisors. So that's the basic agenda. Okay, housekeeping. If you've got any questions, and please do have questions, nobody likes tumbleweed at the end. Please put them in the chat window as we go, and we'll tackle them at the end. I'll try not to do, break up the theme of the thing, so we'll tackle those at the end. And there are some free tools for directors and advisors in this presentation. If you want links to these or copies of the slides, again, put your details in the chat window, or let Angela know, or drop me an email, john@boardroomadvisors.co. Okay, so first up, why use advisors? Yeah, lots of reasons really, and to be honest with you, this is business number 7 for me. I'm a serial idiot. I wish I'd used advisors more in the past. I kind of tried to do it on my own, which is great because you feel in control and you're driving it and so on. But particularly early on in my business life, I'd made heaps of mistakes. I still do, but I hope I make a few less as time goes on. So, great things that advisors bring. You get an outside opinion, and when I've talked to clients and if they've said that they're happy with what we've done for them, and I ask, well, what is in particular did I help with? And they often say, well, you cross-fertilized ideas from one industry to another. So you get an outside opinion, somebody perhaps with broader view of everything. You get expertise and experience. They're different, obviously. So expertise is around, the skills. So personally, I'm trained in marketing and strategy. That's my expertise. But you also get experience. And listen, I feel 109 in startup years. Somebody tells me I only look 82. You get contacts. So people like me who've been around a while, you pick up useful people that like and trust. Whether that's lawyers, bankers, accountants, consultants, whatever it is, you pick up lots of things. And, clients often say to me, oh, I'm struggling with this particular issue. I say, well, have you tried doing it this way? Or have you tried this particular person? They may be able to help. It's not always right, but you get the contacts. They help you plan. So one of the things we do at Boardroom Advisors is we help with strategy. So last week I was with a marketing agency, and we went through from scratch, from a standing start, and we built a strategic business plan with them, not for them, but with them. So literally around the table, board members and myself, whiteboard, and they can help you plan, we bring structures. I'll show you some of these structures later, and as I say, there's free downloads to help you plan, and that external and objective view about planning and what it means and how to run that process and to be independent is kind of handy. They may well mentor you or your team, and with the marketing agency I mentioned, so I'm also mentoring the CEO. And I'm also about to do some training with them in a particular focused area for them. And the main benefit for business people having advisors is it should free up your time. That's one of the main things, as well as getting all that experience and expertise. So lots and lots of benefits, some pitfalls as well, of course, and different types of advisors. So external advisors, so a chair, used to be called a chairman or chairwoman, now a chair. What do? Well, they chair the board meetings, and they're often involved with strategy. They often mentor the CEO, and they can be involved in other areas. Bigger companies have them on their remuneration committees and all that sort of stuff, but smaller businesses, chairing the board meetings and leading strategy and direction. A non-executive director, also called an NED or an NXD for short, but a non-exec director. This is a director at company's house, so it's a formal position, as is the chair. And they bring an external view, and they may be specialists in certain things. They may just be the outside voice. A board advisor, well, this is a non-legal term. This is kind of the watered down version of a non-executive director. So it's not on company's house, but technically they might be deemed to be a shadow director and have similar responsibilities, but it's not a legal position. Board observer is kind of a similar thing, really, but they're generally observing for a venture capital company or private equity firm. Consultants, generally project-based. They come in, they do a job, they go out again. That's generally the role of the consultant. Part-time executive directors, that's kind of what we specialize here. We do NEDs and part-time executive directors. So they can be, anything from a day, a quarter to 3 days a week. And they're part-time, but they're part of the team, and they might be specialists in finance, marketing, sales, operations, IT, and so on and so forth. So lots of different types of advisors. And then there's internal advisors. That's really what I just mentioned, actually. So it's the part-time executive directors, part of the team, just not there every day of the week. So they're really technically internal. Sorry, I covered the same ground. Some key areas for advisors, and strategic direction is obviously one of them. Quite possibly the most popular for external. And so when we're talking to clients about strategy or strategic direction, bit of a mouthful that, we kind of start with asking them simple stuff like, do you talk about strategy? Who discusses it? How do you analyze it? Do you do it yourselves? Do you do it through a board? Do you have a non-exec director? And honestly, a lot of companies don't do strategy in a formal way. And there's a difference. We'll come to the detail of this later, but there's a difference between strategy and tactics, and actually there's a difference between that and other types of strategic direction. And what a lot of people have, particularly smaller businesses, they have lots of tactics. What they don't generally have is strategy, and what they don't generally, some don't generally have is an overall direction for the business. And it's important, in my humble opinion, to have all of those things. But we'll come to how we can do that in a minute. So strategic direction, it gives your company, your business clear purpose and objectives, no matter what size it is. If you're running a one-person business or you're running a PLC, you still need strategy. You still need a clear purpose and objective. Why are you doing this? What is it you're wanting to achieve? And you can do strategic analysis. It's really, really, really difficult to do it in isolation. You know, sit down with a clean sheet of paper and think of strategy. It's where do you start? So actually, the best way of dealing with it is using management consultancy type tools, things like a SWOT analysis, which most people know: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. We'll cover that in a minute. So tools like that. We have our own crisis assessment tool and most analysis, which is brilliant. I'll cover all these in a second. But using these tools, it allows you to follow a process, and that helps you. The end result is strategy. Otherwise, it's kind of like trying to nail a cloud to a wall. It's, you know, it's never there. So using these tools, don't be blinded by the names and the fact that consultants use terms and mix up strategy and tactics and objectives and all these sort of things. They're just words. Strategy should be simple, and I'll show you how to make it simple in a minute. I think strategy or strategic direction is the single most important thing that any advisors can help a company with, because unless you have a clear strategy and direction and a plan, how are you ever going to know that you're going to get there? So let's start with the one most people know. So SWOT. So you can see from the chart, you probably know this already, but you have internal things, which are strengths and weaknesses, and external things, which are opportunities and threats. And it's important not to mix up internal and external. And when we do this with clients in a brainstorming thing, whiteboard, mark it up, you know, it's quite common to say, oh, well, you know, we're on strengths, but that's something outside the company, or vice versa. So try and keep them in their boxes. It kind of helps. But other than that, it's quite a simple exercise. So, you know, when we do this with clients, it's right. Let's look at internal strengths. What are the internal strengths of the business? We've got some great staff. We've got some great processes. Our products are loved, and so on. And you just, you know, you brainstorm around the table. People, normal brainstorming techniques apply, and that is that, you know, nobody criticizes, you don't stop and discuss, you just whack the ideas out and get them on the board. And when you start to run dry, then you can start to analyze a little bit, you know, perhaps knock out some silly ideas, but put them up to start with. Maybe take one or two weaker ideas and combine them into a stronger one, that sort of thing. But in the beginning, just put them down. Don't analyze it too much. So you do internal strengths and you do internal weaknesses, set a piece of paper. Come on, guys, what are the weaknesses? What are the things you kick the cat about when you go home? Figuratively, not literally, and so on. And so you go through all four of these things. So that's a SWOT analysis, and it's helpful, and it'll be helpful later as well, to go through and have a sense of priority. So what are the big strengths, you know, which weaknesses are really strong and which actually are kind of marginal? Have a sense of proportion about them, so you know which ones you're going to tackle, because we're going to tackle them with another tool. So that's kind of SWOT analysis. It's not, you know, it's not new. It's been around donkeys. I think it's really, really good for getting the issues out on the table. They all sit there and look at you, not the people, but the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. This tool, SWOT, doesn't do anything with them. It doesn't show you how to fix some of your weaknesses or look at new opportunities. It just says, blah, there it is. But to get you that far, it's a handy tool. So you use other tools in combination in order to give yourself a strategic direction. So SWOT analysis, there is some very simple worksheets which are free downloads on our website. I'll show you later where. So switch to the second tool, and I find this absolutely invaluable. It's brilliant, 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 brilliant. So most analysis stands for, if you can follow the clock from bottom left to bottom right. So M is for mission, objectives, strategies, and tactics. Okay. Again, it's putting things in boxes, but there's a reason behind it. And this is the core when we're with clients. When I was with that marketing agency client recently, this is the core of what we used in order to come out with a strategic plan, which actually gets things done. A lot of plans, I'm sure you've done it in the past. Oh yes, we've done an away day or whatever it is. We've had a session with a consultant. We've got ourselves a plan. Right. Well, let's just put it in the drawer and crack on with our business, and we'll check every now and again. It's good plans don't do that. Good plans are working plans. They put things on people's to-do lists. So just whiz you through this quickly. So mission, we're starting bottom left. So the mission, it's the organization's purpose, it says on the slide. Really, I think it's a bit more, I like to think in terms of two simple things, turnover and profit. How much are you going to sell and how much money are you going to make at the end of it? However you want to define that, it's entirely up to you. But why? Because it sets the direction for the entire business. But first of all, you have to say where you are now. Well, if you're a startup, you've got absolutely nothing. But if you've been in business for 5 years, you already have some sales, so you have some turnover, and you have hopefully some profit. Or if not, you have some negative profit called loss. You have a starting point is the thing I'm trying to get across. And what you're trying to do with the mission is to say, well, from this starting point, where do I want to go? And in what time scale? You might choose a year, 3 years. Choice is entirely up to you. I suggest don't go further than 3, because that's, in today's world, that's an awful long time. A lot of people go for a year. Entirely up to you. So, perhaps you want to, let's just have an example. Perhaps you want to double the sales of the business in 3 years. Okay, that gives you a sense of direction and scale, because if all you wanted to do in 3 years' time was to increase sales by 5%, you don't have to do much stuff. If you want to double sales in 3 years, you've got to do quite a lot, haven't you? So it gives you that sense of scale and allows you to measure and kind of look at the big picture. So that's the big picture stuff. You'll find as we go round, all of these things, mission, objectives, strategies, and tactics, they all hang together. So we've got our mission. We want to double our sales in 3 years' time. And you move then to the objective stage. What are the key goals that help achieve the mission? And again, you sit there with a blank sheet of paper going, it's tricky, isn't it? So what you do is you go back to your SWOT analysis. And what I suggest to clients, I did to my marketing client the other week, choose perhaps 6 things. Perhaps, we can be flexible, but perhaps one strength that's absolutely key to the business that you've got to retain. Perhaps a couple of really bad weaknesses that you really need to fix, or you're never going to get to your mission. That's the test. You're always testing whether it gets to the mission or not. Perhaps a couple of key opportunities that you want to take advantage of, and perhaps one threat to the business, to the profitability, to the very existence of the business, that again might stop you getting to your mission. So you might have half a dozen things. And if we take one example, let's say there's a weakness of a perceived lack of financial strength that might prevent you getting bigger clients in. So that perhaps is the weakness. Now you want to take that weakness and do something with it, and make it an objective. So you kind of have to turn it on its head and turn your weakness into an objective. So the objective in that example would be something like improve the perception of our financial strength. Okay, so you kind of turned it around, and there's got to be a reason. So you would stick a phrase like in order that, or so that, you know, that why are you doing it? Oh, so that we can pick up bigger clients, or so that bigger clients will deal with us, or, you know, you find the right sort of wording. I'm making most of this up. It's just an example. So the idea is you take things from your SWOT analysis, the key things, you turn them around, make them into objectives, and say why it's an objective. And then the acid test is, well, if I meet this objective, or all of these, am I more likely to get to my mission? And if the answer is yes, then you've got the right objectives. If the answer is no, perhaps you're missing some, or you've got the wrong ones in there. So you've always got an acid test. Each one of these boxes, you go back to the box before and say, well, if that works, have I achieved the box before? So then you've got some objectives. And for every objective, you have strategies. Now, strategies, don't worry about the words, you know, objectives, strategies, tactics. Strategies are options. And if you want to scrub out the word strategies and write the word options, that's absolutely fine. It's just a word. So what are the options to achieve the objective? So if we take the example that we talked about, so you want to improve the perception of your financial strength. So what are you going to do about it? What are the options? Strategies are just options, and it's a creative process. So we're back to brainstorming, back to, you know, a whiteboard or blackboard or whatever it is, computer screen. You're back around talking to your colleagues around the table. So what are our options, guys? You know, throw some ideas out, and it's ideas at this stage. They're just options. So, okay, well, we might. So we're going to change the perception of our financial strength. We could hire a part-time finance director. Okay, well, that's an idea. Stick it on the board. We could go fundraising, raise some money. Okay, so you're generating ideas, brainstorming those ideas. And then when you're running dry, again, brainstorming, you don't criticize, you just whack it up. When you run dry, you start to analyze, take the bad ones out, you know, join two weaker ones together to make a strong one, that sort of stuff. And then you're kind of left with a short list and you say, well, okay, so which ones are we actually going to implement? And I suggest no more than 2 for any objective. It might just be 1, that's fine. You might want to have, you know, it might be really important, you know, well, they are really important, but you might want to have a double-barreled approach. So you might want to raise some money in our example, and you might want to get a part-time finance director. So there you've chosen your strategies for that objective. And then we come to the final part. For each of those strategies, for each of them, how are we going to put it into action? The key word, if you don't like strategies, tactics, objectives, the key word is how. How are we going to do this? Who's going to do what by when, really? That's another way of looking at this. So we're going to raise some money. Who's going to champion this? So chairman, okay, you know something about fundraising. You're going to lead the charge here. So what are you going to do? Okay, you're going to talk to Cedars crowdfunding agency, because you've got a relationship there, to see if that's a good avenue to go down. Great. Okay, so you're going to do that, and when are you going to do it by next month? Great. So you've now got a task, a tactic, you've got an owner, and you've got a timescale. And guess what? That should go on the chairman's to-do list or task list. And then the other one, so you want a part-time finance director. Okay, well, perhaps CEO, perhaps you're going to have a look at this one. You're going to talk to those lovely people at Boardroom Advisors, or perhaps somebody else. And you're going to do that by when? Great. And then that goes on your task list. So I've kind of talked you through mission, objectives, strategies, and tactics. You can see So at each stage, if you achieve those tactics, yeah, is it likely that the strategy will be successful? If you do those strategies well, is it likely your objectives are going to be achieved? And if those objectives are achieved, are you likely to get to your mission? Those are the acid tests going through. And you've got owners and timescales and actions going on people's to-do list. And therefore you can review it. Not every week, probably not every month, every quarter is a good idea. You might not want to hide it in the drawer in between, you might want to have it on the desk, but review it occasionally. How are we doing? You know, come on, Chair, you said you were going to do something last month. How's it gone? Oh, hasn't happened. Want to get on it, because we're going to have a formal review coming up shortly. Because you review it perhaps on a quarterly basis, that's not set in stone, but it's a good idea. When it gets to the review, if people haven't done their tasks, they hurriedly get them done because they don't want to look foolish at the meeting. So it kind of drives the process on. So excellent, excellent, excellent tool. I have used this every year with clients for 30 plus years. And the modern equivalent, this isn't that old, but there is a modern equivalent called OKRs, which Google really launched their whole business plan and drive their whole company forward on. Personally, I prefer this. I think it's a little easier to understand, but we're all different. So that's most analysis. Now, the slides on most, I think these are quite important because because there are 4 sections and you might have 2 or 3 things in each section, it can get a bit complicated if you just do this on a piece of paper. Highly recommended. Go to our free downloads, the worksheets, and the worksheets are all connected with each other, so it drills stuff through. So it's kind of handy, really, and it's free. That's most analysis. The final one I just want to share with you after I've had a sip of coffee this is our tool. This is a crisis strategy assessment tool. Sounds grand, doesn't it? It's just a simple set of questions. And it's really, we've got a crisis. It's called COVID, in case you haven't known. But this could have been the financial crisis of 2008. It could be the next crisis, whatever that's going to be. So it's just some simple questions to double check your business, your direction, and your customers and so on around the crisis. So first of all, defining the crisis in one sentence. What is it? COVID-19. So what will change in the world? Generally, yeah. So is there going to be less travel? Are there going to be less offices? These sort of things. In the world generally, what's likely to change? What's likely to change in your industry? Because every industry is a bit different, and it makes you just stop and think. And now, we've been at this for 20 months or whatever it is. Just have a think about what has already changed, and you can get half an idea of, if that direction of travel, what might change a bit more. Things like Zoom. We hadn't heard of Zoom 2 years ago. Now it struggles to survive without it. So COVID, how will it affect your revenue streams? With some people, it's increased them. With others, unfortunately, it's the reverse. And how will it change your value proposition? I want to come back to value proposition in a bit. It's a marketing term, but it's why are you different? Why do people buy from you? And will it change? So I'm in Bristol in England, and there was a company here pre-pandemic that did meals into company offices. Okay, and they were quite an early stage business. They were starting to do well. COVID came, crikey, nobody in the office, everybody working from home. So they pivoted their business and they changed their value proposition. Suddenly they were delivering food to people in their homes. And then as people drifted back into their offices in the UK, then again, they're pivoting back again, and now they're doing both channels. So they've been very flexible. And that's one of the keys, I think, when there is a big change, is not to be rigid. Oh, this is how I've done business, this is all that. Have a think about how, is it right for your business to stay the same, or do you need to be more flexible? Be more like the willow than the oak, I think is the phrase. And how might it alter your customer segments and relationships? And we're going to come back in a growth section in a minute. How will it alter your distribution channels, your partners? What about your resource needs, your cost structure? So these are just checklist questions, aren't they? But it makes you just stop and think, oh, crikey, do I need the same people? Do I need more people? Do I need less people? It's not about the numbers, do I need different types of people? If a lot of work's going to be virtual, do they all need to be, in my own town or even in my own country? It makes you stop and think about those sort of things. So we have, it doesn't give you any answers, it just gives a checklist. And again, the checklist is downloadable, free download. And I'll show you where to get that now, actually. Here it is. So if you go to boardroomadvisors.co, or just put Boardroom Advisors in quotation marks into Google, and you will find us. Go to, excuse me, I need to take another sip of coffee. Go to the resources section on the main menu, just there. And then there's a business strategy toolkit, and you just follow those and download. Right, so that's kind of a whistle-stop tour about strategy. So the other key area for advisors that I just wanted to whiz through is around business growth. That's often where advisors help. And again, the simple questions we ask clients: how do you discuss it? Who's responsible? Are they at director level? How do you analyze it? Do you have help, external advisors, and so on? I went into a £50 million turnover company a few years back, and I said to them, so growth. So tell me, do you have anybody who looks at growth? And they all kind of looked at each other. And I said, marketing, sales. Oh, we're salespeople. Marketing. Well, Julie did a course. I said, you're a 50 million turn. Didn't say it like this, but I thought you're a 50 million pound turnover company and you don't have anybody in marketing and you don't have anybody responsible for growth. They had salespeople, but the old adage is marketing makes the telephone ring and sales picks up the phone and converts it. So you have to start growth with a lot of marketing things, which you either have to do yourself if you're a one-person business, or you have to get advisors in. And so growth, marketing, however you define it, is around several core things. And one is, what is it that you are selling? I'm a great believer in keeping things simple. And that's why you need to establish the brand. So the brand defines your customer needs, it defines the value proposition, how you get that. So that's why people buy from you, how you get that message out to people, and it defines your product and brand development. Oops, wrong button. And I'm going to come back to value proposition in a second. I think I'm going to slide out of whack here. But a second area to look at is who are you selling to? So this is lead generation. So it's identifying the decision makers, defining a process, segmenting your customers. Who do you sell to? Who do you want to sell to? Where do they live? How do you get to them? What are the routes to the market? Are you going, and the marketing channels, are you going direct, or are you going through a third party, through professional services? Are you going through accountants, for example, or is it an e-commerce site and you're selling direct? You need to kind of work out which are the best routes to those markets and which are the best marketing channels. And then how are you telling people? So it's all about communication tools, and there's loads of them now, aren't there? It's just crazy. I've got a list there, you can see it. You can't do everything well. I think that's the key, and it's picking your battles, picking the tools that you are best at. For example, Board of Advisors. So where
I tried that one for Friday in January she couldn't do. Let's have a look, 25th of April.
Okay, I'm going to go up to you tonight. See you tonight.
Sorry, somebody hadn't got their mute button on. So Board of Advisors, so we spend a lot of time on our website and on social media, but we don't do lots of social media. We do LinkedIn and a bit of Twitter, and that's it. We don't do anything else. We focus on those two channels because those are very business focused. We do SEO on our own website. That's quite important to us, but we don't do paid search. We pick our battles really. And I think the message is pick your communication battles. Where are you strongest? Where do your clients sit? Where are they? And how do you get to them? And that kind of works out your channels for you. We have on our website a very thorough free tool. It's called a Scale-Up Growth Diagnostic. It's a series of 30 questions, and it looks at your business strategy, your marketing strategy, and your sales strategy, and gives you marks for each of those, and then a cumulative mark, of course, to show you where you are in scaling up your business and where your strengths and weaknesses lie. Free tool, very useful. It's our IP. We've designed this from start to finish. You'll find that on the resources section of the boardroomadvisors.co website. And then you'll come to the Scale-Up Growth Diagnostic section. The tool itself starts like this, and you click the start button, and it comes out with a report. Sorry, that doesn't come out terribly well, but it's I don't know, 15, 16 page report, which people find very useful. There's a to-do list at the end. So that's how to do that. Right, so that was whistle-stop tour about strategy and about growth. Do, by the way, if you've got questions, do stick them in the chat, and we'll can see there's a little 3 in there. So there's 3 people who've said things. Do, if you've got something to ask, do, or comment, do put it in the chat. We'll cover that in a minute. So rewarding advisors, so external advisors, how do you do it? Lots of different ways. Fixed fee with an estimated number of days is a possibility. We kind of generally work on day rate, but it depends on the role and the size of the company and location. Some guidelines for you. Chairs, well, anything up to £2,000 a day. That'll probably frighten the smaller businesses away. Non-exec directors, 1,000 to 1,500. Board advisors, this is probably at the smaller end, up to 1,200. Probably perhaps in the southeast, and perhaps larger companies might go up to 1,500 again. And independent consultants are generally cheaper, but then you're buying one person with one person's skill set and one person's experience. If you buy a brand like ours, then we've got 150 people nationally. So there's a selection of people, and you get more than just one person's experience. So it's horses for courses really, but there are cheaper options out there. And then so internal, the part-time executive directors, the ones we kind of specialize in, they can be on the board, or they can be they just attend board meetings, and they cover those particular functions down there: finance, marketing, sales, and so on. And again, generally we work on a day rate. So that's probably the best thing. So in terms of qualities to look for in an advisor, a little checklist really: a coaching mentality. You don't want know-it-alls who are just preaching at you. You want people who can help you so that you can do it yourself at some stage. Sooner the better, really. I always think if we as advisors make ourselves redundant, we've done a good job, because we've got the clients to a place where they can do it without us, which is absolutely perfect. If you're scaling up your business, growing it, you want somebody who has some experience in doing that. You want somebody who'll think long term, and possibly longer term than the founders of the business might. It's very easy, particularly if you're an early stage business and you've got a mortgage to pay and kids at school or whatever it is, that it's quite on the line. And so you're thinking about this month, can we make salary this month? Are we going to be able to pay the mortgage this month? I've been in that place. I remember I started a management consultancy, specializing in strategy, obviously. And it was 8 months before I got my first client. And I remember with my wife, we looked down the abyss. It's like, well, crikey, if we don't get clients in the next month or two, how the heck are we going to pay the mortgage? We had 2 small children, actually a baby and a small child at that stage. So that's tricky. And it means that, why am I telling you that? It's quite common, particularly in early stages, that you think quite short term because you've got bills to pay. And an advisor can help you think a little bit longer term, which sometimes is very useful. You want somebody with similar values, whatever that means to you. But there should be a meeting of minds where they should get you and you should get them. Otherwise, it's always going to be hard work, I think. Have a good reputation, so ask around, see what other people think. And I always suggest draw up a brief for an advisor. Why? Why do you need an advisor? What's the purpose? So write it down. I need an advisor specializing in this, or I need an advisor who is going to be external and objective and give me lots of contacts. I need them, write a brief description of your company, its values and so on, what it is you're trying to achieve. That's the key thing. And what role do you want them for? Is it a board advisor or a mentor or a non-exec director or a chair or whatever? Be clear in your own mind. You can change your mind as you go on, but start with a direction. And write down the skills and experience you're looking for. Perhaps nobody's going to, you list 20 things, nobody's going to have more, but you want to know the things that you're looking for, because that will then frame the questions when you meet them. Frame the question. So if you're looking about exiting the business, you want somebody who's done this a few times. So Mr. Advisor, how many exits have you done? Tell me about them. Oh, you've done none. It's simple stuff like that, really. And perhaps some goals you want them to achieve, but you have to be realistic and so on. Oops, wrong button again. Okay, final slide, really. How to find the best advisor. So who do you know already? Who's in your own network? Reach out to thought leaders in the industry, search on LinkedIn, whatever. Evaluate their past experience. So have a look at their LinkedIn profile or their CV, whatever it is. And then choose the person. Have they experience? You don't want somebody who's an expert. If you're in widgets, you don't want somebody who's absolutely the #1 expert in widgets, because you want somebody perhaps with broader experience, but they must know something about widgets. Otherwise, you're teaching them the basics at the beginning, which isn't a very good use of your time or money. So some experience, I would suggest, is a good idea. They should get your vision. They should be keen, should be interested in seeing you succeed, and there's some chemistry between you and the advisor. Right, well, that's kind of my slide deck. So any questions, do put them in the chat. If you want to reach me, Angela has recorded this, so That'll be going on the Women in Business website. It'll be going on the Board and Advisors website as well. And Angela will be able to send you the slides. And that's how to contact me. You can find me on LinkedIn, or you can send me an email, .co or .co.uk, both of them work. So whatever you fancy, really. So let's have a peep in the chat and see if we've got some questions. Well, Mavis is just put her details in there. Oh, most people don't have access to the chat box. I didn't realize that. Okay, question from Angela. Do you have a template or guidance on how to interview for a non-exec, especially when they have experience that you don't have, but need to be sure they're the right person and a good fit? Well, yes, I don't have a template, but actually the last couple of slides that we just ran through probably gives you as close a template as you can possibly get. So you can follow those and use that as your template. Okay, well, I'm sorry, I didn't realize that not everybody had access to the chat. Oh, Angela says you did answer my question almost directly after I typed it here. Thank you, Angela. You're very welcome. Well, if we've no other questions because you can't go to the chat, then thank you very much for listening. Angela, thank you very much for inviting me to speak here. And you know, do the free downloads. And hope to meet up with you in the future. Thanks very much, everybody.
Thanks so much, John. It was really good to have you join us.